Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm calling this Committee on Finance to order. It's a public hearing dated Thursday, November 10. It is just 5:40 p.m. right now. I would like to ask if anyone would like to speak. On this matter, there are sheets up in front on the table. If you haven't already signed up, please do so. I'm going to pull the sheets as soon as the clerks read the matter into the record. And then we'll begin in the order of the folks who have signed up to speak. Okay. So with that, Madam Clerk, could you kindly, first of all, recognize Finance Committee Vice Chair Carmen Castillo is with us this evening. We have Council President John Igliozzi is with us. We have Council President Pro Tem Pedro Espinal, Councilwoman Mary Kay Harris, and Councilman Oscar Vargas. Also, your name for the record, please. Susanna Skolnick from the Solicitor's Office. Okay, with that, Madam Clerk, could you kindly read item 1 into the record?
Item 1, an ordinance establishing a second tax treaty agreement for the Providence Place Mall.
Okay. Sergeant, could you please bring the sheets to the rostrum? Sure. We're going to give everyone 2 to 3, we'll say 3 minutes. There's not a big crowd here this evening to express themselves when they're called. I am going to first call the petitioner and the owners and anyone in your party that would like to join you behind the rail. Sergeant, please allow them in. And we're going to start. I guess I'm not going to have you sit down, but we've made provisions for you to sit. Can you just come to the podium, please? And I'm going to ask that the clerk swears you in. Everybody who will be presenting.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your full name for the.
At all? Wonderful. Who is going to lead off? Have posters that you'd like to put up, please. You have the mic, sir. Could you please speak into that microphone?
Now it's on.
Now
How's
it's on
that?
and you're loud, so it's all good.
Fill the room.
Please continue, sir.
Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee, members of the City Council, for the record, my name is Jeffrey Padua. My law office is at 1 Park Row in Providence. I'm here tonight representing Brookfield Properties with respect to the Providence Place Mall. I know they just entered their names for the record, but let me introduce the folks from Brookfield and give you their titles and where they're from. So with us tonight, we have John Zillikin. John is the Senior General Manager at Providence Place. He is the most senior individual at the mall every day. He's local. We have Janelle Vaughn, Vice President, Property Management. Janelle came here from New Jersey. We have Joe Hope, Senior Vice President of Leasing. Joe is from Rhode Island. We have Fahim Syed, Vice President, Real Estate Tax from Chicago with us tonight. Brian Montague, Senior Vice President, National Operations from Chicago. And we also have Lindsay Kahn, Director of Public Relations. Anybody in the media, that's your contact. As we all know, Providence Place Mall was built about 25 years ago. It was to be a catalyst for the revitalization of downtown Providence. Many of us remember that from Memorial Boulevard up to the State House, it was basically a desert, that where the mall is now was a dirt parking lot, that none of the development, or not much of it, what we see today was in existence. And by all accounts, the mall has lived up to its billing. There are 2,000 jobs there. Shoppers and tourists come from around the region and beyond to shop there. It's not an exaggeration that hundreds of millions of dollars of state and city taxes have been paid over the last 25 years. And it has, in fact, been a catalyst for additional development, the G-Tech building, the Water Place Towers, Renaissance Hotel, and others. So in connection with the development of the mall 25 years ago, the city granted a tax treaty for 30 years. And that tax treaty is ending in about a little over 5 years at the end of fiscal year 28. In connection, and so what we're requesting is a second tax treaty to coincide with the ending of the current tax treaty in about 5.5 or 6 years, which will provide, of course, a stream of tax payments to the city, as well as additional uses. So the governing documents for the mall make it primarily a retail mall, retail uses only. Of course, there are some other ancillary uses. There is some restaurants. There's the Dave & Buster's and the theaters, but there are significant constraints such that this is primarily a retail mall, and we are looking for a full spectrum of uses to be allowed. The world has changed over the last 25 years, especially the last few years, pretty dramatically. And Brookfield is re-envisioning and reimagining and would like to reinvest significant dollars in remaking the Providence Place Mall. Tonight, we will present our vision for the mall for the next 20 or 25 years going forward, and also answer the question why now is the time for this second tax treaty. So with that, let me introduce Janelle Vaughn and John Zillikin, who will start our presentation.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? I'm John Zillikin. I'm the Senior General Manager of Providence Place. It's an honor to be here, and thank you guys for your time.
Please
don't wanna
step up to the mic, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. John Zillikin, Senior General Manager of Providence Place. First, thank you for having us. And I don't want to totally regurgitate what Jeff said, but I will tell you that our desire tonight is to highlight and remind the community of the longstanding partnership between the City of Providence and Providence Place since opening the mall 23 years ago. What you see on this first slide are pictures depicting what the mall looked like when it was completed in '99. During that time, the city really wanted to create an anchor of the city, and they wanted to focus on infill development with a mix of uses and parking. Providence Place began that transformation of the Capitol Center area, establishing an economic engine for downtown. The vision of the repurposing land to straddle a river and railroad tracks was imaginative and bold, but the vision came to fruition and it worked. It created a retail environment not seen in Providence at the time, and it created a central parking destination, not only for the shopping center, but also for the future businesses and community activities that were going to be held downtown. What you see now is what exists today. As you can see, the opening of Providence Place did serve as a catalyst for many of the developments surrounding the center. By 2005, $1 billion was being invested into the surrounding areas, such as the GTEC building, Water Place 1 and 2, Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Omni residence, and a civic center renovation. This development continued its momentum up until the time that COVID presented itself in 2020.
From our beginnings in 1999, Providence Place has and continues to support over 2,000 full-time jobs, full-time and part-time jobs. These 2,000 people rely on Providence Place for their employment, and we're proud to be a part of that. Since the inception of the tax treaty, Providence Place has generated approximately $15 million in state payroll taxes and more than $400 million in sales tax revenues. Additionally, we've made a lot of investments into our own asset. In the past 7 years, we've spent approximately $4.5 million per year in operational capital, and we've spent over $60 million in development capital, much of which has been invested in the parking deck. And if you've parked with us and seen our red light, green light system and the different colors per level, you have seen some of those improvements. We've also spent nearly $15 million in leasing incentives and tenant construction.
Beyond the positive economic impact, we take great pride in being a part of the fabric of downtown. Providence Place has been a meeting place for the downtown community for years, as well as providing ancillary offerings for all who visit downtown for a show, a convention, a concert, or a sporting event. In addition, Providence Place serves as a backdrop for many of the popular events held downtown, such as Waterfire, PVD Fest, Comic-Con, Pride, and various running events. And of course, every Christmas we have Santa. We are, and wish to continue to be a destination for downtown and our community. We are approaching our ask as a vision, as an opportunity, as a second opportunity to lead a renaissance of the downtown area after COVID.
Given the events of recent years, we, meaning Providence Place and the City of Providence, have a new reason to act as partners, now more than ever. I will now turn it over to Fahim Syed, our Vice President of Real Estate Tax, to discuss the impact that COVID has had on our business. Fahim?
The pandemic has had a significant impact on Providence Place and the greater Providence community. Providence Place was not immune to negative pressures caused by the pandemic, which impacted the property in 4 significant ways. The office worker population has not come back. Meeting and event business has suffered downtown. Visitor traffic is down and sales are down. Office worker population has yet to return, driven primarily by new paradigms for work from home and hybrid work schedules. For these reasons, office occupancy is currently at 35% of pre-pandemic levels. Meeting and event business downtown is still suffering from pre-COVID levels. In fact, current peak levels are only at 60%. These two factors, office worker population and meeting event business, have caused two significant declines. Sales at the mall have decreased and have not fully recovered. Visitor traffic is down nearly 4 million visitors and is operating at currently 66% of 2019 levels. Inline occupancy has also dropped and tenants have closed. Despite the fact that the pandemic has significantly disrupted our business, as you will see in the slides to come, we envision a revitalization and transformation of the property to once again make Providence Place a destination that people want to visit. One concept you hear about tonight is about partnership. To make any revitalization possible, we will need a partner in the city. And that means partnering together to address the real estate taxes at the property, which remain a significant concern for us. With that, I'll turn it over to Joe Hope, our Senior Vice President of Leasing, who will speak to our vision of revitalization.
Thank you, Fahim, and thank you all for having us here this evening. It's great to see you. I want to discuss our vision for the future of Providence Place. But first, I want to provide some higher level context on Brookfield in general and our overall vision, methodology, and mission. I'll start with a quote from our website that I think truly embodies this philosophy on our retail properties. And that is, for us, retail isn't just about managing properties or redeveloping malls. It's about creating spaces that draw consumers in and inspire communities. And more than anything, it's about bringing people together. That quote, in a nutshell, I think embodies what we're all about as an owner of retail real estate. Brookfield is strategically curating each of our 150 retail properties' merchandising mix. We customize that mix based on individual market dynamics, site conditions, and consumer behavior. Our intention is to continue that curation effort at Providence Place. Our roughly 150 retail properties are no longer just for shopping. They are for community gathering, dining and entertainment, fitness and recreation. Providence Place is certainly no different. Today, we offer more than a venue to purchase apparel, shoes, and accessories. We have attractive and productive restaurants. We have entertainment venues, and we have other uses there like boutique fitness, as an example. Brookfield has also made a huge focus on bringing what we call digitally native brands into our brick and mortar retail real estate. A primary example of that is brands like Adore Me right here at Providence Place, which started as an online-only retailer, and Providence was one of their first 5 brick and mortar stores. This ever-changing and diverse mix of uses evolve really in concert with the changes in consumer behavior that we see, and ultimately drive us to deliver a platform in each of our communities as the retail real estate really being the hub of daily life for those communities. The pandemic, unfortunately, has helped develop some significant challenges and vacant spaces at Providence Place and throughout our portfolio. We view that as an opportunity, as some have said already this evening, to reimagine those vacant spaces throughout the shopping center. Our vision is to replenish those spaces with complementary uses that keep us fresh, and even more important, they keep us relevant, making Providence Place the hub of customers' daily life in this community. Between 2012 and 2020, Brookfield invested over $2.3 billion in redevelopment activity across our portfolio. That amounts to roughly 2.5 million square feet of real estate that we will touch through a redevelopment every single year. To set the stage for our vision for Providence Place, I want to share a few examples of other projects that we've completed around the portfolio that you can see on these vision boards. The first on the top left is Beechwood Place in Cleveland, Ohio. We replaced a vacant restaurant, about 19,000 square feet, so quite large, at the front door of the property with a state-of-the-art co-working concept called Cohatch. That concept also included a climbing wall and a partnership with a local brewery, completely reimagining the front door of a very strong property in Ohio. The photo to the right is of Staten Island Mall outside New York City. As part of a larger redevelopment that we embarked on in 2018, we added a 10,000 square foot location for Emblem Health. Emblem Health is a full service healthcare concierge that provides wellness consultation, insurance coverage, and primary care physicians to the community. To the right of that, on the top right-hand corner, the Mall of Columbia between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. We developed a restaurant row there of multiple locally curated restaurants. And in the adjacent vacant department store, we redeveloped that with entertainment uses, restaurants, a grocer, and a Barnes and Noble bookstore. So the very definition of mixed use in that environment. The bottom left photo is Oak Brook Center, which is our trophy property in Chicago. We've redeveloped multiple anchor boxes in the last few years at that property, but the photo we show here today is when we welcomed one of the first putt shack concepts to the United States. It was actually the second in the United States. That's a London-based indoor mini golf bar restaurant concept in about 18 or 20,000 square feet. The bottom middle photo is of Ballston Quarter in Alexandria, Virginia, where we're adding a 28,000 square foot Johns Hopkins Medical Center that replaces historically vacant and underutilized former retail space. And then finally, on the bottom right is from Ridgedale Center in suburban Minneapolis, Minnesota. As part of another vacant anchor redevelopment, we've added Dick's Sporting Goods' new concept called House of Sports that comes along with an outdoor turf and training facility alongside the retail store. This final vision board is a little bit closer to home here for those of us that live in Rhode Island. This is of Natick Mall, just up the road in Metro West Boston. We have redeveloped 2 vacant anchor boxes in the last several years, long underperforming individual anchor boxes, JCPenney and Sears, into a now thriving Wegmans grocery store in one of those. The second was redeveloped into multiple uses, including Dave & Buster's, similar to the one we have at Providence Place, along with a Lucid Motors showroom and service center. And finally, Level 99, which is a one-of-a-kind experiential concept that is filled with both mental and physical challenges. We like to call it kind of a ninja warrior, and it also has a full-service restaurant and brewery. So a point of difference that's driven wonderful traffic to Natick Mall as far as 40 plus miles away. Here at Providence Place, the 3 main areas that we would focus on as we look to the future. First is a reinvigorated Francis Street, critically important face and literal front door of the property that interacts with adjacent components of downtown, like the State House, Water Place Park, and the G-Tech building. We would do that with a further diversified tenant mix, replacing multiple vacant former restaurant spaces with new and exciting restaurants, new menus that don't exist in the city and are not duplicated, potentially integrating further entertainment concepts like a comedy club or putt shack example we just shared. We'd also look to integrate service uses, anything from financial services that would complement the existing Fidelity and Charles Schwab in the marketplace, or again, medical healthcare concierge concepts. On the north end of Francis Street, closer to the State House, we envision adding additional health and wellness, additional boutique fitness that would complement the existing cycle bar that's already in place, or potentially med spa, day spa, or salon suite concepts, all of which are very active and expanding in our portfolio. And finally, we would consider adding small to moderate size office or co-working concepts to activate historically dormant space above the street level that's currently in raw condition since the property opened in 1999. All of these uses are intended to drive the frequency of visitation and increase the relevance of Providence Place to different parts of our customers' daily lives beyond, again, just retail shopping. And then the third and final focal point for our vision is to reactivate what is remaining of the former JCPenney box You may recall several years ago, we redeveloped the lower 2 levels of that into additional parking when we did our garage renovation. The 3rd floor, which is about 40,000 square feet, sits adjacent to existing strong food court, theater, and Dave & Buster's. And our vision to redevelop that into a junior anchor would be through enhanced and elevated entertainment. Again, similar to some of the examples we shared on the screen, like Level 99, Putt Shack, et cetera. Those 3 components are really consistent with our mission and our curation strategy that I started off with, and will help us maintain Providence Place's position as the hub of daily life for our customers. It is critically important for us through this second tax treaty to allow for these diversified uses that will help reinvigorate the asset. With that, I will now turn it over to Fahim and Brian to discuss why it's critical to address this issue now. Thank you.
As we finalize this presentation, we must ask the question, why do we need to extend the tax treaty now when the current treaty doesn't expire for another 5.5 years? The tax treaty is the foundation to trigger a sequence of events that must occur to revitalize the property for success. The sequence of events are as follows. Number 1, extend and restructure the loan. Number 2, capital infusion and project renovation. And number 3, lease vacant space and maintain occupancy. Each of these will be evaluated in turn. First, it will be difficult to extend and restructure the loan without the tax treaty in place. In fact, the current loan expires prior to the end of the current tax treaty. This underscores the importance and the need to extend the tax treaty now. We cannot delay in starting these discussions now. My colleague Brian will now discuss why it is important to extend the tax treaty now from a capital and leasing perspective.
Thanks, Fahim. Good evening.
Can I just
So
ask,
why now?
excuse me, could I just ask you to testify, please? What is the loan maturity date? You expressed that it was not inconsistent. Treaty. What is the loan maturity date? Come to the microphone, please, sir. I'm sorry.
There are several key action dates in place, but one of the key timeline points is next year.
Next year.
Yes, that's one of the key action points that need to be addressed.
You don't have a specific date.
It is sometime next year, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Please continue.
Sure. So why now? Vision, commitment, reinvigorating the center, and continuing our ongoing partnership with the city is of utmost importance to us. You've heard about the partnership that we started when we first built the center. The COVID slide, I think everybody in the US has experienced that to a certain extent. The excitement for the vision of Providence, as well as some additional uses from Joe, and then the debt obligations from Fahim. So to reiterate, we're looking for partnership. In addition to what was mentioned, we need support and commitment to help revitalize Providence. So the costs needed for reinvestment are significant. The ongoing capital obligations, whether it's parking deck work, upgrading the interior, the exterior, supporting a releasing effort, this takes a significant amount of capital, and it's ongoing each and every year. Some of you may recall the Easter Sunday where we lifted approximately 30 HVAC units up on the roof of Providence. It was a cold day. I was here, and was a cold, long day, but we got it all done that day. It was approximately a $10 million investment just there. Some of the other work, we've also replaced the Nordstroms with the Boss Cups. That required a significant amount of cash. We have implemented a sustainability strategy here that consisted of lighting upgrades, all LED lights, upgrading a 6.6 megawatt generation plant, and as mentioned, the HVAC units. Future big spends will be parking deck upgrades, implementation of the vision that you saw tonight, and ongoing expenses such as housekeeping, security, R&M work, which is repair and maintenance, and a myriad of other obligations that we have to the center. Vertical transportation would be another big expense. So why now? We need to manage expectations from a financing standpoint. Capital, and we need to manage it from a capital expenditure standpoint. Expected outflow of cash, it's imperative that we understand the future obligations of our center so that we can reinvest and revitalize Providence. First step in setting a realistic tax number, which we believe the number is approximately $4.5 million annually. That happens to be $3.5 million more than the current than the city sees currently. We have, so in that we ask that you take a look at what we've presented tonight. We have explained our vision and the importance of why now, and we are asking council's approval for a second reading. Thank you for your time.
Okay, folks, that concludes the presentation from the petitioner, I'm assuming. Jeff? Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to invite you to go on the other side of the bar there, and then now we'll entertain resident testimony. Thank you very much. Okay, I have two sheets before me, a sheet of opponents and an empty sheet of proponents. Usually I switch back and forth. I'm going to stick with the opponents sheet and start from the top. I'd like to ask that you limit your testimony to about 3 minutes. I think that will give you sufficient time to make your case. And with that, I'm going to start with Lawrence J. Mancini, Chief Financial Officer, City of Providence. Could you join us, please, at the podium?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Identify yourself for the record, please. I don't need you to swear in. Swear yourself
Thank you,
in.
Madam Chair, members of the committee. Lawrence J. Mancini, I am the Chief Financial Officer of the City of Providence. Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee, members of the Council, on behalf of the administration, my testimony this evening is not in support of the proposed changes to the tax treaty for the Providence Place Mall, which is currently before the City Council and is the subject of this evening's public hearing. The city administration has held various discussions and negotiations over the better part of the past 3 years, albeit with some interruptions during the COVID-19 closure of the mall and local government. The essence of these negotiations began with the current operator of the mall and the successor in interest as developer of the Providence Place Mall, known as Providence Place Group Limited Partnership, seeking an extension of an additional 20 years to the existing agreement, which now has 6 years remaining. The original extension was sought by PPG 3 years ago, was intended to provide long-term financing stability and perhaps better financing terms with its lender, while the city was seeking a payment structure that would have provided expanded annual revenue to the City of Providence, including additional revenue during the remainder of the current tax treaty. Since the negotiations in March of 2020 were suspended due to COVID-19 closure, there have been limited discussions, none of which include any proposed increase in annual revenue to the city over the remaining 6 years of the original agreement. The city now is being asked to consider significant
Chief,
changes.
could you lean a little closer to the microphone,
I'm
please?
sorry. The city is being asked now to consider significant changes in current zoning and other approved uses of the mall facility, including perhaps medical offices and corporate leasing, all of which will provide the Providence Place Group with greater flexibility in its business model and ideally enhance revenue streams. However, there is no provision to provide the city with a negotiated increase to the current payment structure, which is at approximately $1 million annually. The proposed ordinance before the council represents that the mall will have paid the city $149,800,000 over the course of the current 30-year tax stabilization agreement. This is simply not true. Under the current agreement, the mall will have paid $8,800,000 in community reinvestment payments and $5,300,000 adjusted annually for the consumer price index in the pilot payment, totaling approximately $14.1 million. The $149,800 that's referred in the ordinance includes 24 years where no payment was due to the city. The first 4 were construction years, so there was no payment. The following 20 years, the base annual payment was paid toward the mall's debt service. The city did not receive these payments. I say that, Madam Chair, as a matter of technical correction to your resolution before you. Additionally, the city has never received any tangible tax revenue from the mall operators' tenants under the current tax treaty, which has been estimated at approximately $2 to $3 million tax loss annually to the city, and the proposed extension intends to continue this provision, thereby giving those tenants that special benefit. Finally, the current estimated tax value of the mall is listed at $708,709,000, which, if they were paying tax at full value on a commercial tax rate, there would be an annual real estate tax payment of $25,088,922. An analysis conducted recently by the City Assessor's Office shows that even when comparable mall properties in the area and region were factored into consideration on a square footage basis, the Providence Place Mall valuation still would result in a tax payment of more than 2.5 times the annual payment that is being proposed at $4.5 million. And while we realize that the viability of shopping and mall facilities has declined in the current online shopping environment, as well as the economic downturn that has occurred due to COVID-19 related diminishment, we certainly believe that Providence Place Mall is a destination shopping location located in the capital city and centrally located to downtown hotel and hospitality venues, as well as the well-established city theater, sports, convention, hotel, restaurant districts, as well as arts, culture, and tourism industry that attracts significant local and visitor populations, and hence it has unique value. For that reason, and without more specific revenue-related analyses of this proposed tax treaty, we respectfully request that the matter before the City Council not be approved at this time, particularly without the benefit of further revenue enhancement to the City of Providence, commensurate with the scope of zoning use changes and the relief that's being sought. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Chief. Next up, we have a sorter Kirby. Arada Kirby. Thank you.
Aranda Kirby, Wayland Avenue, Providence.
Please speak into the microphone.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm speaking tonight in opposition of this recent decision to approve a second tax treaty agreement for the Providence Place Mall. As you guys are more familiar than I am, the current TSA has another 6 years before it expires and therefore has no need to be presented now for your consideration. This timeframe also gives the seated council, right, in January, and the incoming mayor the time it would need to thoroughly review and question any proposed tax relief considered for this project. Many of you are leaving the council in what, 8 weeks? And instead of pouring all your energy into finishing outstanding issues that require your action now in the city, like the boutique hotels that provide no parking, illuminated digital billboards throughout the city in risky traffic areas, and lit high school scoreboards that affect the calmness of city neighborhoods, you're choosing to act on something that you will not even be an official seated member of the council to be accountable for down the road. I urge you to reconsider imposing your political opinion on something that does not require resolution right now and will have long-term consequences for the city for years. And I really appreciate Mr. Mancini's testimony tonight because I read the proposal and there's not a lot of detail in here in terms of exactly the kinds of changes they're looking for to provide different services in the mall. And there's a lot of great malls out there. I've recently had the opportunity to be at the American Dream Mall in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and they're doing amazing things there. And I get it, it needs to be rethought, but the city and the council and the mayor need time to absorb it and make sure the city is getting a deal that works for it and not just for their business proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Ray Mathau?
Hi, my name is Ray Matthew. I live on the east side of Providence. I've lived and worked in Providence since 1970. I really don't have much to say after the great presentation that Larry Mancini made. He basically sums it up with the numbers. I do have one question though, Joanne. You asked, what's the maturity date of the current loan? And I don't really think you got the answer to that question. I didn't hear a date, and it seems to me that should be readily available. We should know when the loan matures. So I'm a little suspicious of everything else I heard as a result of that. Simple questions should be answered rather easily. I guess, like I said, I've lived and worked in Providence since 1970. 40 of those years were right on Kennedy Plaza, 16 in the Superman building, and 25, I guess it was 41. 25 in the Fleet Center building. I saw them all go up. I thought it was a great thing. I've seen it decline. It's like, it's kind of looking at the pyramids of Egypt right now. It's such sad shape with respect to not only its physical structure, but its tenancy rates have changed over the years dramatically. Unfortunately, I'm married to a very heavy shopper and who used to spend a lot of time in the mall. She now drives down to Garden City, even though we only live over here on the east side. I don't think the mall has kept pace with the rest of the world. I know there's been a pandemic and problems of that sort, but for some reason, Garden City is flourishing and the Providence Place Mall is not. And I don't think throwing away more tax dollars at the mall is going to solve the problem until we address many of the issues that Mr. Mancini mentioned earlier. I don't have a lot of faith in this particular project, the way it's structured. And I think we'll be sinking money into a building that's going to easily either turn into low-income housing at some point or to brown dorms. And that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you kindly. Okay, Everett Pope.
I can go?
Yes, please. You have the mic. Please identify yourself for the record
Yeah, my name is Everett Pope.
and your address, sir.
My address is 173 Montgomery Avenue.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this deal. It's like very concerning to say the least. I just feel on like on a perspective of like, in terms of what the mall could be without a TSA, I don't think we necessarily know what that looks like, because to my knowledge and understanding, and I could be corrected, the mall has only ever existed because of these agreements. However, I also feel as though like it's such a long period of time, you know, like literally 3 decades. So I feel as though like it is not necessarily the sole responsibility, but the primary responsibility of the folks who are in charge and in control of managing the mall to come up with creative models so that they can kind of have like a viable business for the future. I don't think it's fair that the residents of Providence have to continually subsidize such a large space in such a like very important part of our city. Like, you know, like at any angle in which you are like standing from the mall and you're looking in a certain direction, you're looking straight at the State House. So like, you know, I feel, I don't know, I'm kind of conflicted, but I don't think that it's like fair for the people of Providence to continuously suffer just because folks, you know, don't know how to get it together. At the end of the day, like we live in a capitalist society. this is how it works. So like, I don't think the bottom line is like, I don't think that us, the people, should be subsidizing a private business venture, like in no capacity at all. Because even, again, like I previously stated, the formation of this mall was kind of a significant feat. So, you know, I would encourage both the mall vendors and the people who are in control of the mall and city council to kind of work out a better agreement if there is even an agreement to be worked upon. But this shouldn't be like a normal practice where, you know, people come in with nice suits and nice presentations and nice boards and show us these like shiny buildings, and we continuously just like roll over to them. Like at a certain point, we have to show resiliency as a city of Providence, that, you know, we stand up for our people. And at the end of the day, like business will continue, you know, like even I don't pray for it, I don't wish for it, but in the off chance like the mall goes bankrupt, like it's a beautiful building, someone will buy it, things will continue to persist. So that's my piece.
Thank you. Shelley Peterson. Please identify yourself for the record. You have the mic.
Good evening. I'm Shelley Peterson,
Your address?
49 Erie Street.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and council members, for the opportunity to speak on this. As the newly elected official representing Ward 14, this Providence Place Mall's tax stabilization plan still has 5 years before it ends. It's imperative that we remember that the financial health of the city is at stake, and we need the time to really review the proposal to better determine how this new plan could affect the city as a whole. As a new city council member, I ask that you do not move forward with the passage of this tonight and leave it for the new council to actively research and vet. It's unfair at this point to consider any option that will inherently affect the much needed revenue that the city requires to support the multitude of needs that our neighborhoods have. Our friends at Brookfield talked about the COVID impacts that have affected their earnings, and we see day in and day out the effects that COVID has had on our communities. We too need a partnership that can be beneficial to our city in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then Althea Graves. Please
Hello.
identify yourself for the record.
My name is Althea Graves. I'm from 107 Wayne Street,
Thank you.
and this falls under Ward 12. And I would like to say that is my ward. And when I was walking around for the campaigning, this came up. People are upset that we're giving big corporations and everything tax breaks and benefits, yet they can't afford to pay their mortgage, they can't afford to pay their rent, they can't afford anything. This would be a smack in their face if this goes through. I don't understand the rush when you ask that young man, and I say young because I'm old, when you ask that young man, what was the date and why was it a hurry? He didn't even know. He said sometime next year. If this was so imperative, that would have been one of the first things they would have led with. Oh, we need to have this because by April of next year, this has to be done. If they don't know, didn't care to find out, that tells you there's no rush. And if you got 6 years, we can wait until the next session come in and let us all talk about it then. I would hate for the representatives, the council people that are leaving now, for this to be their legacy, because it can come back and smack them in the face. Why would you want the people that voted you in to hear that your final decision was that you allowed this to happen? You allowed another person to come back for a second bite. Now, this is not their first bite at the apple. This is their second bite at this apple. Yet you cannot do anything for the common men and women that pay their taxes each and every day. I live in this city. I own a home in this city. I am invested in this city. I love this community, and I will fight for each and everybody in this community. And this is one of the fights that I think that we need to talk about. I did not get enough urgency from them for why this needs to be done. And as for the gentleman that said that, it may be closed down in a little while, I don't see that happening. Maybe some people can get up and get in the car and go to Garden City. But there's a lot of people that walk down into this mall because they'd have no resources to go out to Garden City or anywhere else to get something. So this is their shopping hub. So I do not see the mall falling down next week. I don't see it falling down in a year. I don't see it falling down in 6 years. So I do not think it's a rush. And I personally, unless they can show me something more than they showed tonight, I don't really see the need for them to come back and ask again, when those monies can be used for the common man that lives in this city. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Don't have anyone else on my list. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak on this topic before we conclude this public hearing? Okay, with that, I would like to thank everyone for their testimony this evening. This is definitely the beginning of a discussion, a lengthy discussion that needs to happen on a very vital and valuable piece of real estate in the city of Providence. Once again, thank you all for joining us and testifying tonight. There is no vote this evening. Again, it's the beginning of a discussion. So with that, this concludes the public hearing. Thank you very much.